Hello and welcome to a special Friday tailgate of UGAsports.com, joined by the head coach Jim Donnan, College Football Hall of Famer. We are out here in Gwinnett County, about halfway between Athens and Atlanta at Rowan. So the folks at Rowan, they love the work that we do, Coach, and they wanted us to be a part of this. This is a 2,000-acre nonprofit complex that's being built out here. It's going to be great for the state of Georgia, which is already number one for business across the country. More than 22 million square feet of labs, offices, and civic spaces coming here. And they wanted us to come talk ball here.
Yeah, I think it's good. And I want to make the point that before you were born and most of the people here, I lived in Raleigh, and they had the great thought of building the Research Triangle Park there, which is what these good people are doing here, and really created a tremendous area for growth and economics in North Carolina. You know, all of a sudden IBM moved in there, and it was just a very insightful move by them, a lot like what the people from Rowan are doing. So congratulations, and I know it's going to be great for Gwinnett, for the state of Georgia, and hopefully for a lot of Bulldog fans.
Well, they wanted us to come out here and talk ball, so we're going to do that. Georgia and Missouri this week. And, Coach, this is for the keys to the SEC East at this point. We've talked about it a lot on our channels here this week. But overall, where Georgia sits, undefeated, haven't lost a home game since, going back to 2019 at this point. Where do you see Georgia at this point in the season? Where do you see Missouri trying to come in and pull what would be the biggest upset of the season so far?
Well, from Missouri's standpoint, you got to give them a lot of credit for the season they've had. They've won some really tight-fit games against some good teams and against some teams they should have beaten. But fortunately for them, they were able to hold on and beat Middle Tennessee and Memphis. But have really kind of generated more offense this year. Last year, kicking a lot of field goals. But in Luther Burden, they've got one of the most explosive players in the country, and also Brady Cook, their quarterback's very adept at running the offense. He's a good mobile quarterback that gives us trouble, and it's going to be a real challenge. But conversely, to come into Sanford Stadium, like you mentioned, where we're 20-0 over the last 3 or 4 years playing home games and only one other one in the last 5 years. So it's a daunting task. I feel like our team is starting to really, as we've talked on our show, and I hope people can watch UGA Sports every Tuesday, really building a lot of momentum and depth, quality depth through the injuries we've had, and getting a lot of confidence, particularly at quarterback, where Carson Beck is having a tremendous year.
He is having a tremendous year, and the question going into the game against Florida is who replaces Brock Bowers, or at least replaces that production. Just the skill guys on offense. You were saying just the depth that Georgia has right now. Are you most impressed by what Georgia receivers have been able to do? I know Ladd McConkey was someone that we talked about a ton on the UGA Sports watch-along show last week.
But one of the things about Coach Smart is being able to look into the future, and with the guys we lost to graduation and to the transfer portal, losing A.D. Mitchell, he brought in 2 really good transfers, Ra Thomas from Mississippi State and Dominic Lovett from this team that we're playing tomorrow, Missouri. And both these young men have really blended in with the other guys we've gotten. I mentioned on the get-go that we've got guys coming back. McConkey has missed so much of the year with a back injury, but he came in, and between he and Lovett the last 2 weeks, you know, Lovett's had 15 receptions, and we saw last week 6 by McConkey, just taking a little stress off of not having Bowers in there. And, of course, Oscar Delpa stepped up immensely well and played good at tight end in that role. But the biggest key for us, to me, has been the decision-making by Beck and the offensive line just playing at a premium level, protecting him and avoiding the lost yardage plays and turnovers.
You're an offensive coach, but I know Kirby Smart is a defensive coach. And so Georgia's defense trying to slow down Brady Cook, who can throw it and run it a little bit. They're about to have what's going to be the leading rusher in the SEC at running back. And then we've heard for years now at this point about Luther Burden going back into recruiting. He's the real deal. He's one of the best receivers in the country. What does Georgia's defense have to do right now to slow down what this Missouri attack has done so far this season?
Well, like any game, you got to win first and second down and get them in a manageable third down for the defense where you can play your different coverages. But when they've got the threat of run or pass, they're a very good team because your quarterback's another threat keeping the ball. So you've got to look at how much you want to double and take the pressure off of one guy covering Burden. But when that happens, then you open up maybe some running lanes for Schrader. They're good back. He had about a 50-some yard run against us last year, and the quarterback runs, which Brady Cook's good at. So real kind of mix and match type look. Glenn Schumann and the defensive coaches try to give them a myriad of different looks. But our defensive front's got to step up. I think getting Darian Ingram Dawkins back last week really is a big plus. Gives us some more depth, and we're getting some good edge rushers. So it's just a case of making sure that you don't give them a lot of explosive plays. And the biggest key for me is that Georgia's offense is going to put so much pressure on Missouri's defense that maybe Missouri going to try to keep up with us and maybe make some mistakes and trying to keep up with the scoring. Now, conversely, if all of a sudden we aren't moving the ball and giving them a lot more opportunities, they got the kind of offense can really hurt you.
You as a coach, would you use last year's game as any kind of motivation? Do you mention it, or is that just in the wash and you're focusing only on this game in front of you?
Well, you always focus on what's ahead of you, but at the same time, it's a vivid memory of the fact if you aren't ready to play and the other team plays its best and you don't, that you could lose the game. And we went 5 or 6 possessions, without hardly any offense. We kicked a lot of field goals in the red zone, didn't make many big plays. We're very fortunate to be down 10 points in the fourth quarter and win the game. So I think the point Kirby's going to make to our team is these guys got your attention. You can't go out there and flip-flop around and expect to come back because they're much better than they were last year. And but, again, I would use it from that standpoint of respect this team. You know what they're capable of.
Did you ever, worry is not the right word as a coach, but this is the biggest game that Missouri's had in a decade at this point, maybe going back 9 years to when they played in the SEC championship. And for Georgia, it's played in a lot of big games. Do you ever think that Missouri's treating this as a bigger spectacle than what Georgia might?
Well, it's definitely a big game for Missouri because of all of a sudden you win this game, you're in the driver's seat to get in the SEC championship because you got Tennessee at home. You certainly got to play Florida and Arkansas, but this is a big feather in your cap. But you never know what kind of emphasis they're putting on it. The one thing that always worried me a little bit when you have an open day is you might be too overly prepared from a standpoint. Well, if they do this, we do that. You've lost your momentum a little bit. Certainly you get healthier, but you might try to be just, well, if they do this, we've got to be careful. Sometimes you know too much about your opponent. So, but I look for them in here to come in here and sell the ranch, take some shots, take some chances, and understand that conversely, we were talking about what the Georgia Bulldogs think about Missouri. A lot of guys in that Missouri locker room say, look, hey, we know what we're capable of. We played with these guys last year, and a lot of the same guys are playing. We just got to go out there. We don't have to be Superman. Just play your game.
What is Georgia going through? So we're live right now on YouTube and Facebook. And so it's about 3:40 right now. What do players do? What do coaches do around this time before a game tomorrow? It's around this time tomorrow that kickoff will be happening.
Yeah, a lot of mental approach by the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, one of the biggest things is to recover from a very difficult week of practice. You always got to prepare, and the only way to practice football is to play, practice blocking and tackling. And so, but between Thursday at 6 o'clock and 3:40 on Saturday, there's a lot of time that you can put on a mental preparation. So they show a lot of tape, situational tape, where they'll go over goal line, special teams, all these different things that are salient to the game. And then they have several walkthroughs where they don't put on uniform, but they just go out and walk through what their game plan is on offense and defense and special teams. And then, at the same time, relax a little bit too. A lot of hanging around your players, your partners, and joking around. And the one thing they're going to eat really good because these kids love to eat, and they do a good job of making sure the fuel's in the tank. Then Saturday, a lot more of they have a devotional, which I think is good. They always have a speaker come in. It's obviously voluntary, but most of the players go to, and then usually eat the pregame meal 4 hours beforehand, and then After that, have a couple of short meetings and walkthroughs, and then before you know it, you're going through the dog walk and getting out there in Sanford Stadium.
Which Sanford Stadium has become quite the home field advantage during this run for Georgia. I think back to Arkansas having trouble getting a playoff, multiple procedural penalties just in that end zone there with loud fans. I thought of Tennessee last year struggling against Georgia in Sanford Stadium. How have you seen Georgia fans rise to the occasion and make that place a very, very difficult place for opponents to come play in?
Well, we've talked about it on our shows, the fact that this is a lifetime experience for any player, coach, or fan, the fact that you're winning at this incredible clip. And it's nice to be the big man on campus or the big man on your block where you live and bust up on your buddies and everything. But, every game is in itself is a game, and it's an enjoyable thing. And part of being a home team is backing your team and giving them good support. And it's definitely an edge for us, the way our crowd gets behind our defense when they're on the field. And it's certainly hard to call your plays. And you take a lot of fun in getting them off sides or when our defense shifts or whatever it might be, because you can talk about it all you want and plan and they play music at practice and all, but there's nothing like walking in there and having to do it in Sanford Stadium live.
This run for Kirby Smart, he doesn't like to brag on himself. When you were a coach, you don't brag on what you did in the past. You always look to the future. But you're not the coach right now. He is. And I know I don't have to give you too many avenues to brag on what he and his staff have done at Georgia. But just the perspective of college football of the last 2 years have been some legendary things in this sport. What is it about Kirby that makes him capable of this?
Well, he's a very driven guy. He's very competitive, but he's also one of the few coaches that I've ever been around that can coach every position. He's an authority at quarterback, defensive back, D-line, special teams. He really works hard at coaching his coaches, and then they transcribe that to the players. So he basically tells them what he wants and the players. And then we have immensely competitive practices where our players get a chance to go against as good of players as they're going to see on Saturdays, and they simulate game-type situations where they can handle the pressure. So, and every coach works for that, but we've had a lot of success with it. And he brings in good players and he develops them. And I think the continuity on our staff certainly helping too, bringing in Muschamp and Bobo and being able to move guys up for authority like Schumann did. It all adds to success rate. But bottom line is it's a big deal for him to be the coach here. He went to school here. Mary Beth, his wife, went here. And he feels like he owes it to everybody to give him his best shot, and he does that.
Again, this is a special Friday tailgate presented by Rowan. Rowan's a big fan of the work that we do, but this space out here in Gwinnett County, about halfway between Athens and Atlanta, again, it's going to be more than 22 million square feet of labs, office, and civic spaces to help Georgia businesses just to stay in the number one in the state. So we're going to come out here in a couple of years, Coach, and this is going to be full of agriculture and medicine, environmental, just a place that entrepreneurship can really be revamped and vital. It's going to be a vital part of Georgia's economy.
Very good plan, and it's really a good site. I mean, it's premium site. I mean, when you think about how we just ride in here in Gwinnett County, and then all of a sudden we're out here with this mass of dirt, but they got it real organized. They got a good plan, and if you're a businessman and you're looking for some place to invest, this is the place, because I guarantee you, the project, the way they got it laid out, really looks good to me.
Yeah, it's a 2,000-acre nonprofit knowledge community, and I'm excited to learn what it's going to be as it continues to develop here. Looking at Georgia's months to come here, Missouri at home, Ole Miss at home, going to Tennessee, Georgia Tech. Everyone before the season was saying the schedule is not that hard, but I look at this now and say you're going to be a well-tested team after this month.
Yeah, we're going to see Florida kind of disappointed me from a standpoint of being as competitive as I thought they might be. But certainly these next three teams present a myriad of different opportunities for us to be prepared for the playoffs and the SEC championship. You got a real offensive team here in Missouri that can spread the ball out with a defensive pressure-packed defense. Then you got Ole Miss. It's a real high-powered offense with a great quarterback and running back. Maybe not as good a defense as Missouri's. and then playing on the road at Knoxville against a completely rebuilt Tennessee ball team that is based more on running the ball instead of throwing it and playing really solid defense. And they've got a big road win over Kentucky last week, and should have an easy tomorrow. But they got to go out and play Missouri, which is going to be tough for them on the road. And then all of a sudden, Georgia Tech with that humongous win over North Carolina, being down double digits like they were, and they've been winning the even week. So we're going to get them the even week at the end of the year. Based on their schedule, they're supposed to lose tomorrow and then win and then lose and then win. So we'll see how it goes. But anybody that had our season ticket package was kind of poo-pooing it there, but now all of a sudden it looks pretty dang good with Missouri and Ole Miss coming in here.
What's it like to know your team's going to get everyone's best shot? I mean, you had this at Oklahoma, you had it at Marshall, you had it some at Georgia. What is it like to know that these other teams have kind of circled you for a month now already?
Yeah, I mean, it's really fun because you've got the kind of team that's capable every time you play of winning, but you also know that if you don't play your best, that they're probably going to play their best, knowing that that's what it's going to take to beat you. So I always just try to tell our team the only thing we can control is ourselves, and what we can control is being prepared. We got to work all week, regardless of the quality of the opponent, how good they are or how bad they are. And if you take care of business and you're ready, and all of a sudden a couple of things don't go your way, you can overcome that. But if you hadn't prepared and you kind of slip spot, and that's why all of a sudden you can't pick it all up there in one afternoon. So one thing I know that Georgia's always going to be ready. They leave every stone. They go over every issue weekly. So we know we're going to get their best shot, but we relish giving them ours too.
You mentioned earlier that Carson Beck has really played well this season. I know you're a quarterback coach at heart. You always look for how the quarterbacks are playing. What's the difference in Carson Beck from week one as a starter, having first time played live college football in a long time at a high level? What's the difference in him from then to now?
Well, first of all, he started out with a lot of reps, because he'd played for 3 years here against our defense. And then conversely, once he got going there, you saw his confidence, and he knows what to do. He can check off. He understands football terminology. He's got a great coach, and Mike Bobo, who played for me, and it really has relished being the quarterback here, because it is a tremendous honor. And one of the things we got right here is David Greene, who was a quarterback for me. Unfortunately, I didn't get to keep coaching him the whole time, but what a great family. Enjoyed meeting his family and recruiting him and getting him to Georgia. And one of the best to ever play for the Dogs. And just real proud of David, what he's done, not only as a player, but off the field, all the things he does for community. And being out here today shows you the kind of support he's got for Gwinnett County. But this is a good man right here.
Hey, it's good to see you, Coach. I've enjoyed today. We got beautiful weather, and anytime I get a chance to see Coach and catch up a little bit, right. It's a good day.
Well, David, I got to know, Coach is a recruiter. He recruited you, and so one of the first doors for you into Georgia. Sure. What's it like to have this man recruit you?
Well, I actually told him earlier, just 2 of us over there, I think Coach Donnan is one of the best recruiters ever. Not because he recruited me, but because when I was scout team my freshman year at Georgia, first 3 guys, closest 3 guys on defense that I run against every day were Richard Seymour, Marcus Stroud, and Kendrell Bell. That's not a bad 3. And then when you look at the 2 defensive ends, it was Demetric Evans, who played about 10 years for the Redskins. You had Charles Grant on the other side, okay? The other linebackers were Will Witherspoon, Boss Bailey, Tony Gilbert. And you had Tim Wansley outside, who was a fantastic corner. You had Jamie Henderson on the other side, who played for the Jets for a while.
Flip.
You had Jermaine Phillips, who was unbelievable, played for Tampa, had a long career. Then you had Terrell Beer, all starting 11 on that D. So that's the guys that Coach Donnan could bring in. So,
when we recruited him, my son Todd was the lead guy on him, and he was just so sold on David. His ability is one thing, but the leadership. And I talked to David and his dad and mom in my office about, hey, I'm not only recruiting you to be the quarterback here, I feel like you can be the captain of this team, and the rest of your life, the state of Georgia, you can walk in anywhere and they're going to know you. And of course, I didn't have much to do with the success he had after I left, but I'm just telling you right now, you go in any place, nook or cranny in the state of Georgia, he's talking about David Greene. They know who he is because he put Georgia on the map when Georgia was down. And I take a little credit for getting him here, but boy, what a job he did. And I'm not just throwing smoke here. I mean, when you look at where Georgia was when I got here and when I left it and what they did, they put Georgia ball on the map. And of course, I give Kirby Smart a little credit for playing for me too, but he's really put them on the map. So we were just talking about Kirby when he was playing here, but the best part about it, we didn't have a bunch of bums. We had some good players, but we had good kids, didn't we, Dave?
We had a lot of good kids. We had guys that loved to have fun, loved to play football. I mean, never really had to worry about good energy at practice. Just thinking about what we were talking about earlier, Kendrell Bell. I mean, you see the hits between Kendrell Bell and JT Wall back in the day when those two, I mean,
Josh Millard played hard too.
Yeah, them all the boys did.
We used to get mad at Josh Millard, the guys on the hey, Josh, it's Thursday. Don't go so fast, man. And I see Josh down in Savannah now. But the one thing that I just take a lot of pride in going around the state when you see your different players, there's nothing better than a guy to come up to you and say, Coach, because that's the rest of your life you can be their coach, but you also relish in the fact that he's got 4 kids and now he finally got him a little girl there to take care of him, and just means so much to you to have a little bit about what they were, as a young person and growing up. And this is not one of these deals where we just get off on, but I think that's what Kirby has too. We got a lot of good kids on our team that really love to be on the Georgia football team, and respect to G, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. And one thing about Coach Donnan, though, when he recruited you, he believed in you and you knew it. I mean, I was really not highly recruited coming out. I wasn't a 5-star recruit. I had a couple other offers, but I wasn't some big 5-star that everybody was beating out the doors. But Coach Donnan would go around to some of these touchdown clubs, be like, hey, man, I think I found my next quarterback. They're like, hey, who? Like David Greene out of Snellville. He's like, who's that, right? But I actually knew as a freshman before I even played, because I didn't get a chance to start before Coach Donnan. But I knew that he believed in me, and that means a lot as a player as well, because you're in uncharted territory. I played, my biggest stadium was maybe 5,000, about to go play in front of 100. It helps when you know you got a coach that knows you can get the job done.
Yeah, good story for David. We were playing the home game, and your recruits, sometimes they can't get parking or get there late and everything, and so you just tell them to show up at the gate and pick up their tickets. And we had a big game, and I kept looking for David because I like to walk the players out on the field and say, hey, this is going to be you out here, and I want you to visualize it and all. And he didn't show up, and they weren't there. And right before we were going in the locker room, I'm walking in, and then I see David's mother and dad right there above the deal, and I just run out of the deal and walk up in the stands, and they said, what the hell is he doing? I said, I'm just so glad y'all here. I thought you were going to balk us and not come. And they said, Coach, you need to get on back with the team. But you remember that? I mean, I think I was happier that they were at the game than I was that we were getting ready to get the kickoff there.
David, I see the pride that Coach has in Kirby Smart and what Georgia's done the last couple of seasons. Being you and your friends, the group text that I'm sure that you're in, what's it like to live this as a former Georgia quarterback?
Well, it's so fun to see. Look, anytime programs go in cycles, hopefully we stay in this cycle for a while. But just the success, the caliber of players that are coming through this university is unbelievable. You turn on TV on Sunday, and there's a lot of names you see because they were wearing the red and black. A couple years ago, and so it's fun to see. I've been able to take my kids to national championship games and go and travel and play opponents
and take them in the locker room too.
Take them down to the locker room.
Kirby accepts all that. He loves to have y'all over there.
Yeah, he loves it. Loves to have former players come back and just the pride you get to have, be a part of it. So of course we're just on the outside looking in, but when you're playing in a playoff game or an SEC championship, every possession matters. It's not like a regular game. Right. Like, well, we had a bad first quarter. When those games get down to stretch, every play, you're hanging on every one of them. So we've had a lot of those moments these last few years, and hopefully we can keep it rolling.
One thing, David, that lives up here and grew up, but you can see the benefit of this tremendous project that Rowan's got out here and what it's going to mean to this county and all. And we were talking about that because you're a prominent businessman around here. What can you see in this area that's going to really be, it's going to help all your friends?
Yeah, well, the fact that you can put together 2,000 acres and nobody really know about it, and is pretty impressive to begin with. Right here, and especially right here in Gwinnett and Barrow County. I mean, it's 30 minutes from Athens, not far from Atlanta as well. And so I know it's going to be a big research development part, and all these businesses here, they're going to feed into these universities for research and development. So I know everybody around here is pretty excited about it.
Can't miss. I mean, just a great plan, I think.
This whole corridor between Athens and Atlanta has just boomed, and so I'm excited to see that continuing. Coach, just what was it about David as a player that attracted your eye as the quarterback talent? I know it's got to be more than just being a lefty.
Yeah, I always liked the lefty, first of all, because I think he really gives you an advantage. Not so much the way they throw the ball, but just because it's hard for people to get the same tendencies. I mean, some of the throws he can make to his left or ones that the right-hand quarterback can't throw. And he was very good at and had a very good touch too. But I just felt like that everything he had was ahead of him. He had developed in high school, but, and there's a lot of guys that have already reached their peak by the 11th or 12th grade. I just felt like, and he went on to play pro ball. Everything was ahead of him, and I felt like with the right training and coaching, and fortunately for me, I've had a lot of good quarterbacks. I mean, Troy Aikman, just a lot of good players. But I always felt like that if a guy either has, and I think David will echo this, you either can throw the ball accurately or you can't. I mean, there's a reason why a guy's accurate, and you can't teach that. And he was always pinpoint. He didn't throw many bad passes, and you saw his success rate when he got to Georgia. So that was one of the things. But deep down, he's just kind of got the leadership that the players are going to believe in. A lot of times you get in the huddle, even if it's not the perfect play, they just think, well, David's going to do it, and he had that kind of confidence too.
All right, David. George, go ahead.
I was going to say, growing up here, and when you get a chance to come to Georgia and wear the G, and that mattered, especially back then too. I know it's turned into more of a business now than it used to be, but we would come.
We could work some good in for you, could we?
It would have been nice. But we just, honestly, we'd love to play for Georgia. I have buddies and coaches, and say, look, before you even go to Athens, you got to know the history of the program. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff. It wasn't just like a business transaction where here you go play for a few years and it's a stepping stone. No, it was like you need to understand before you step on this field, the men that have played here before you. So it mattered when you walked out on that field. There was a level of respect and a level of pride that you had before you even got a chance to go out there.
It took a little guts by some of the guys like Emerson Pollock and Stinchcombs and Edwards, all those guys, because Georgia wasn't at the pinnacle. Florida State and Florida and Tennessee were kind of at their epicenter when we were here. And we had to overcome that. So they stepped up and built the foundation to get it going. And a lot of those guys didn't remember 1980. They weren't even born when Georgia was winning like that. So, but these guys set the standards and got it going. And Coach Rick certainly had a good run. And then Kirby's just turned it on fire now.
Well, David, thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you on anything with Georgia. If you'll do me a favor and off screen over here, if you'll pass off the mic, we're going to get one more guest in here to learn from Rowan really quickly.
Appreciate it.
And
I'll see you in a little bit.
Yep.
Hey, Mom.
Thanks, David.
Yes.
So we're going to pass off this mic because I want to make sure that if people want to learn more about what's happening here at Rowan, that this happens. And so
we got Mason coming in.
Yeah, we do. If you will, just introduce yourself. This is a live audience here on YouTube.
I love it. So Mason Elstock, I'm the president and CEO of the Rowan Foundation, the spot where we've all dropped in this afternoon, and glad to have y'all with us.
Yeah, glad to be here. This
Good
is
name.
exciting.
I told him James Mason. That's my middle name, so he's got to have a lot going for him. But we were just bragging about when we first started about the fact that I grew up in North Carolina and was involved early, not any kind of planning, but I saw the Research Triangle Park involved there in North Carolina around Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, and all the magnitude of business that they brought in and the way it just helped everybody around there and research a lot of things. But that's your vision here. And
it is. There's that's actually where I came from. I was at Research Triangle Park, the foundation that leads RTP, before having the privilege to come lead the Rowan project. And very much it's about attracting great jobs. It's about connecting to our universities so that those Georgians coming behind us, we can keep them here. They can get educated here. They can do research and innovation and get to stay right here in the state. So it's an exciting project.
I hear everyone say that Georgia's the #1 state in the country to do business right now. How does this kind of funnel into that vision of what Georgians can expect from Rowan here in between Athens and Atlanta?
Yeah. Well, Rowan is that place where there's the convergence between those great jobs to do business and the generations that are getting the training, the research skills, the innovation skills to take on global challenges. And that's really the purpose of Rowan, is how can we come together to take on challenges that we're faced with in Gwinnett, that we're faced with in Georgia, we're faced with in the U.S. and really around the world.
But one thing that I know, you got to be pretty dang sharp to get people around here to get you this kind of land in this area right here. Now, I mean, they're not just going to let their land go to some Willie off the pickle boat.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, this is a heck of a deal here. A great vision. And if you just look at, if people would just tell us in proximity exactly where it is so they understand. I mean, this is an unbelievable. All of a sudden, we're just riding here, and I'm riding with Dayne, and I'm not really thinking about where I am, and all of a sudden I said, "Holy moly!" I mean, you got how many acres you got?
2,000 acres.
Good
and
Lord.
we're 33 miles from Athens and 35 miles to Atlanta.
I'd say it took about 40 minutes from campus to get here on the way.
It's perfect.
Just about dead
It's
center.
perfect.
And you're completely right. I mean, the Rowan Foundation, we're a 501c4. We own the land, and we work very closely with the families early on who they didn't have a for sale sign up. But we brought to them this vision for a place that is about the future. It's about that workforce and research and innovation. And it was really that, with a not-for-profit leading it as the steward of that vision, that led us to where we are today.
And they got to feel, I mean, certainly they got remunerated, but they got to feel a source of pride to know that they're part of helping generations to come with this kind of project. And I'm just really fired up. I didn't know as much about it as I've learned since I've been here, but certainly got some good people out here looking at it too. And there's a lot of difference between potential and performance, but this place right here is going to perform at an optimum level. I can tell you that.
That's the plan. And all these folks that are here joining us, a big project like this, it doesn't happen with one organization. It happens with a lot of hands, a lot of input, a lot of contribution, a lot of trust and confidence in each other, and the stewardship vision for what we can do with the resources we have to do things together.
Well, we're grateful for y'all having us here and including us in that. UGAsports.com got the invite.
I'm glad he didn't ask anybody from Tech. Just, we don't mind Tech coming over here and helping out, but they know where the line is.
Yeah. But we're going to wrap up this live stream here. Thanks to Rowan for having us out. Georgia, Missouri tomorrow. If you want to see more of Coach Donnan's commentary, we'll have the UGA Sports Watch-Along show where you can pause the announcers on the TV, hear our live commentary from a former Georgia head coach who coached Kirby Smart. That'll start tomorrow about 3:30 right here wherever you're watching this. Thanks for joining, everybody, and thanks to Rowan for having us.
Thank you.
All right. Good job there, Mason.
All right. Yes, sir.